समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Let me start this with a trick question. Which community, ethnicity, population do you think has the highest achievement in terms of gallantry awards in all of India? Gallantry awards per 100 population, per 100,000 population, and you know what? I can't even say per million population, at which point I might have given the story away. But in any case, you know the story. So think of a population of just 3 lakh people, just about 3 lakh people, give or take 5,000, just about 3 lakh people, and see, besides all the other remarkable things they might have done, this population of just about 3 lakh people has won 10 Mahavir Chakras, 10 Mahavir Chakras since 1947, 10 Mahavir Chakras, one Ashok Chakra. In fact, I should have reversed the order because Ashok Chakra given in peacetime is the equivalent of Paramveer Chakra. It's the highest gallantry award that can be given in peacetime. So one Ashok Chakra, 10 Mahavir Chakra, 26 Veer Chakras, 2 Kirti Chakras, 6 Shaurya Chakras, and 1 Chief of Army Staff's banner. All of these have been won by units raised out of a population that is just 3 lakhs now. So you can imagine when some of these awards were won in 1947, 1962, this was just over a lakh of people, a lakh of the poorest people in the most far-flung areas. You know by now, we are talking about Ladakh. If you look at all this, I know I see a lot that's happened in Ladakh. I see a lot on social media. I see a lot on our TV channels attacking the leaders of the agitation in Ladakh, calling them anti-national, calling them foreign agents, etc., etc. So while you do all of that, think about why Ladakh is important for us and why India should think about Ladakh. Why we should not be careless about Ladakh just because it's 3 lakh population. I know I'm mixing opinion right now, but it's important to do so. Among the things that I've seen pop up on social media is that, oh, who are these Buddhists in border areas? They are not even a rounding error. That's the exact word I read, exact expression, exact description. They are just a rounding error in India's population. The fact is, these are populations that stay put in the most difficult of our frontiers, in the most difficult and the most sensitive of our frontiers. See this tweet thread written by a very prominent Bhutanese journalist who says that Buddhist populations along India's Himalayan frontiers are the most pro-Indian and the most patriotic. India gets nothing out of annoying them or getting into a mainland versus borderlands tussle with them. So this is this population of just over 3 lakh people. What is Ladakh? Ladakh with India is about 15 with India means as in under India's control right now is about 59,000 square kilometers. About 5,800 kilometers of Shakscam Valley is what Pakistan gifted to China in the 1963 border settlement that they signed. That is also part of Ladakh. Then 38,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chin, which is, see the map of India, it is our territory. The Constitution of India defines it as Indian territory. 2 resolutions of Parliament solemnly affirm that India will take it back. That also is a part of Ladakh. And then there is Gilgit-Baltistan, which Pakistanis claim to have annexed, but which for us is a part of Ladakh as well. Now, out of that, currently in India's control is about 59,000 square kilometers. If you don't have it secure, then you cannot protect anything from the Chinese on the one side, Pakistanis on the other, including Siachen Glacier and including, of course, Kargil, because Kargil is also a part of Ladakh. You know, there's a basic principle that we need to understand, and that's a principle that works all over the world, and that works not just now, it worked 500 years ago, it worked 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, maybe 10,000 years ago. And that principle is that mountains protect nations. Iran, why does Iran look so impregnable? Iran looks so impregnable that Iran is protected by mountains across many of its frontiers. And then it has the coastline. It's very difficult to carry out a big invasion of a large country along the coastline because you are then exposed to a lot of fire. So mountains protect nations. India is protected by the Himalayas. In fact, a lot of our imagery of 1962 or post-1962 was all around the Himalayas. For example, आज हिमालय की चोटी पर छुपकर किसने वार किया, अमरनाथ के पथ पर किसने रणकारत तैयार किया, किसने दिल्ली को ललकारा, किसने कुटिल विचार किया, आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है, दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है. This is what we were brought up with as school children. And then you have Lata Mangeshkar and Mere Watan Ke Logo. It was all about the Himalayas and how Himalayas protect India. And Himalayas protect India. For that protection, it's important that people who live in the most distant part of Himalayas also protect India. Now, if you see India's frontiers, particularly with China, so all of Ladakh, Buddhist population of Tibetan origin, Arunachal Pradesh, West Kameng district, what used to be Bomdila, Sela, etc. Those are landmarks that we remember, historic landmarks. Tawang district, right? And then onwards as you go eastwards. And when you go further east towards Mon, a lot of these districts, the borders are manned by Tibetan Buddhist populations. And India has counted on their patriotism. I don't want to use the word loyalty. Every Indian citizen is loyal. Their patriotism and their bravery, because they've always stood up to the Chinese. They've stood up to the Chinese power and also stood up to the Chinese temptation, because Chinese would always flash their relative riches at them, build their new villages that look so much better than ours and say, look, this will show you what you're missing out on because you're not a part of China, you are a part of India. So why don't you make a better choice? That is why these populations are so important for us. If these borderlands are important for us, these populations are also important for us. We can't just keep sending people from outside, troops from outside to protect these. You need the local population. And that's what my friend, the Bhutanese editor, also says, that look, if you can't protect the mountains and you think you will protect the plains, you are mistaken, because then you will not be able to protect the plains. Because as I said just now, mountains protect nations. These are our mountains. These are our biggest protection. And we have to also look after the people who live there. Now, people can get angry for many reasons. In Ladakh, there are many provocations that people feel, rightly or wrongly. And many of these we talked about in our episode 1432, more than 2 years back. That is where we featured Ananya Bhardwaj, who was at that point in Leh, and we got her to speak from there. Now we've been covering what's been happening in Ladakh with Bismee Taskin there, and Bismee Taskin will join me after a while to explain what she saw there, what is it that's making people angry. I will meanwhile first just tell you some basics. I've told you the history of bravery of the Ladakhi people. Now, how did the Ladakhi become a martial race? Who's a martial race? Martial race is the people who where large numbers enroll in the armed forces and fight. That is martial race. It's not genetic. It is a profession. It's a profession that develops in a community with a combination of factors. J&K Light Infantry had some Ladakhi soldiers. That was a unit inherited by India from the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir. That is where the first Ladakhi warrior rose. That Ladakhi warrior was Shewang Rinchen. Shewang Rinchen then became the youngest ever JCO, Junior Commissioned Officer in Indian Army, at the age of 17 and a half. So he won his first Mahavir Chakra then in the 47-48 War of Kashmir, the first War of Kashmir. He got a bar to Mahavir Chakra, a second Mahavir Chakra in 1971. Now, when I tell you this name, Shewang Rinchen, ultimately he retired as an honorary colonel. When you research, you see where he's been fighting. If he had not been fighting in 1971, for example, then Turtok would not be with India. Because after the 1971 war, Shimla Agreement, both sides returned all the territories they might have captured on the other side in the western sector. Eastern sector, of course, became Bangladesh. But in Kashmir, anything that either side had captured across what used to be ceasefire line, that side kept. So India kept a lot of the territory, particularly critical mountains it had captured in Turtuk region and what is called as Batalik region, which became very familiar during the war in Kargil. All of that would not have been possible but for Shivang Rinchen. Because you know what? When you have such difficult terrain, you need people who know that terrain and people who were born there, who are used to living in that rarefied air, who are genetically equipped to live in that rarefied air because their generations have done so. Those are the ones that you need, and they provide you this X factor in protection of these territories and through them for all of India. That is how the small regiment, Ladakh Scouts, are now 5 battalions. It started out as J&K Light Infantry. Later it became Nubra Scouts. Nubra, as you know, is a region not far away from Siachen. Nubra Scouts. Then it became Ladakh Scouts and became like a militarized unit. In 1963, this was constituted as Ladakh Scouts. Just after the war with China, when it fought so well, these troops, this population has earned everything they've got, and they fought hard to earn it. So 1963, they became a separate unit, Ladakh Scouts, although they are still a larger part of the J&K militia. It is in 2000, after the Kargil war, because again they fought so well in Kargil, they won Mahavir Chakras fighting again in areas familiar to them, that is Turtuk, Batalik, that range, and some of the toughest fighting of that war took place in those areas. Once again, you want to think about Major Sonam Wangchuk, without whom or without whose leadership and whose troops the first successes in Batalik sector would not have come. It is after that Ladakh Scouts were fully made a part of the Indian Army as a separate regiment, which is how they exist now with 5 battalions. Regimental center is in Leh, and when you see the list of gallantry awards, you might find the odd name which you will say doesn't look like it's Ladakhi, because officers by and large, as with any regiment of Indian Army, can be from anywhere. Officers do not have to be, for example, all officers in Sikh regiment don't have to be Sikhs, all officers in Gorkha regiments don't have to be Sikhs. Just like that, Ladakh regiment also has officers from outside. Once again, I'm sticking with this point because I'm a little bit triggered, or maybe more than a little bit triggered, just seeing this attack on the Ladakhis as if they are not patriotic, as if they are playing in the hands of some foreign powers. You know, the fact is that ask the Indian Army, they will tell you how much they value the Ladakhis, how much do they value the population in Arunachal Pradesh on the borders. It is the population that is such a tremendous force multiplier for the Indian Armed Forces in these regions. That's the reason I thought I will talk a bit more on this point. If you again want to look at Ladakhi troops, Ladakh Scouts, in the Kargil war, they won 55 gallantry awards. 55 gallantry awards overall until now. These troops, these battalions under this regiment have won more than 600 awards for gallantry and distinguished service. That is all over a population of no more than 3 lakhs, if at all. So once again, that's the reason I said I thought I will set up a riddle and ask you which is the population or ethnicity or a group in India which has the highest per capita share of gallantry awards in India. It is the Ladakhis, without a doubt. Now, what is it that they are angry about and what is it they are fighting about? Now, Sonam Wangchuk, that name comes out. He's been arrested and charged under National Security Act, which once again, opinion, I think is injustice. It's wrong. He can be doing many things that you disagree with. He can be doing many things that government of India thinks are not in India's interest right now, or where he has a direct conflict of interest. He's also an environmentalist who you might think that opposes development too much, sees all development as a threat. All of those are arguments that can go on. However, he's now been arrested. He's locked up under this draconian law. and taken to Jodhpur. And that has led to protests not just in Leh. In Ladakh, it looks like things have quietened down just now for now, but it has led to protests in Arunachal Pradesh. It has led to protests elsewhere in other states as well, particularly among Buddhist border populations. Now, what is it that the people of Ladakh are demanding or the protesters are demanding? Again, over a population base of 3 lakhs, if you get 30,000-40,000 people together in some place, it tells you that this movement or this mood has wide popularity. So some of this is originated in the restructuring of Jammu and Kashmir, the former state of Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir were taken away as one union territory. Ladakh became another union territory. However, Jammu and Kashmir now at least has an assembly. It is still a union territory. State government has limited powers. It doesn't control police, for example, law and order. But Ladakh does not have any representation of that kind. In the earlier assembly, J&K assembly, Ladakh at least had 4 members in the state assembly. Now Ladakh doesn't have that. What Ladakh has is 2 autonomous hill district councils. One, the Kargil District Council, one, the Leh District Council. But the powers of these councils are very limited. Ladakh is governed by a Lieutenant Governor who reports directly to Government of India in Delhi, and the rest is done by civil servants. Now, there is an impulse in Ladakh that we should also have an elected government. So either a statehood or give us 6th schedule benefits or 6th schedule protections. Now, if you look at your constitution, for tribal areas, there are 2 dispensations. One is the 5th schedule. 5th schedule gives you protection for your land, jobs, etc., but it doesn't give you self-governance. You can have an elected government, and many states have 5th schedule because the constitutional protections that they have, for example, Nagaland, Manipur, for example, they have protections under Article 371 of the Constitution in different ways. Sikkim as well, different subclauses of Article 371. So those protections plus their own elected government, these are seen as protections enough, so they don't need the 6th schedule. Given the history and politics and history means for these tribal states, when the state was created and under what circumstances, that has determined whether the state has the protections of 5th schedule or 6th schedule. You can see, however, and I'm making a larger point, that states which share their borders with China, they do not have the 6th schedule. And that is why it is tough for Ladakh to have 6th schedule. I would not have understood it until I heard this from Umar Abdullah at the release of Harinder Baweja's book, They Will Shoot You, Madam, just a week ago in Delhi. He said that the BJP promised 6th schedule to Ladakhis in 2020 and also 2024. He said they should not have done it because they knew they will not be able to keep this promise. Those were not his words. His exact words were, 6th schedule can't be given to Ladakh for the simple reason that once you have 6th schedule, you cannot take the land. You cannot acquire the land for anything including defense. And here is a region which has a hostile border with Pakistan, a hostile border with China, in a situation where we believe, quite rightly in India, that Pakistan is already sitting on Ladakhi territory occupied by them. China is sitting on a lot of Ladakhi territory occupied by them. In that situation, to give 6th schedule to the Ladakh that India has right now is not going to be possible. That's what I understood when I heard this from Omar Abdullah. That is the main cause of contention. Then there are some development projects. For example, there is the Pang solar and wind power project. Now, Pang is a kind of plateau. It's a high plateau, 15,000 feet. 15,000 feet in Ladakh will be like a moderate altitude. This is not far from the highway, sort of along the highway between Manali and Leh. A lot of picnickers go there, adventure tourists go there. It's a large, humongous plateau. This is where government company, that is Solar and Energy Corporation of India, SECI, they want to set up a 13 gigawatt, that is a 13,000 megawatt solar and wind power station. Now there are objections, also these came from Sonam Wangchuk, that this will block the area for graziers of Pashmina sheep who come in here in certain seasons for their sheep to graze. And if the grazing grounds are denied to them, then the whole grazing business will go away and these graziers will lose their traditional avocation. Now I read that new designs are being worked on. You can put your solar systems on higher masts, so grazing can also go on while this project is built. Then this electricity. Ladakh doesn't need 13,000 megawatts. Most of this electricity will be evacuated in high voltage direct current lines or HVDC lines from Ladakh through Punjab, terminating at Kaithal in Haryana, because these are high consumption areas. Of course, Ladakh will get a part of the revenue, but this is a natural resource. Plus, it's not pulling anything out of the ground. It's not any oil. It's not any gold. It is just sunshine that's available, because Ladakh has more than 300 days of sunshine, very high UV. That high irradiation also gives you more energy output. So there are insecurities that this is green grabbing. Green grabbing means in the name of green energy, producing green energy, you are grabbing land. And also there are doubts and suspicions about other projects, particularly geothermal projects, because the areas of Ladakh have tectonic plates that are colliding. Between the tectonic plates, because the tectonic plates rub, you see heat generated and you have hot water springs there, and ONGC has been wanting to dig in and generate geothermal power. That itself is a cause of suspicion as well. So the basic problem is a lack of trust in Ladakh, and I would say that is partly coming from the fact that Ladakhis don't feel that they are themselves empowered to decide on what is best for them. That's because they don't have elected bodies and they don't have elected representation. They earlier had an MP from Ladakh. All of Ladakh has one MP. He was from the BJP. He did not win this time. Congress also did not win this time. And an independent won this time. An independent who belongs to Kargil won this time. Now, Kargil also has a large tribal population, but that is mostly Shia Buddhist. In the past, there used to be wide divisions between Muslim tribals and Buddhist tribals. And this MP, Muhammad Hanifa, who contested as an independent, aligned with India Alliance, he's been speaking on behalf of the entire region. So those are the complexities of the region. This is why 3 lakh people, or most of the 3 lakh people, have been happy. I told you why these 3 lakh people are to be taken so seriously. Don't count them as just 3 lakh people. 3 lakh people will be a neighborhood in Delhi or Mumbai or Kolkata. No, they are not just 3 lakh people. They are people who are sitting on the most strategically important heights of our country. Mostly, I think the lowest point in all of Ladakh would be about 9 to 10,000 feet. Everything is above that. Everything is above that, going up to 25, 26,000 feet. All that said, we will now have Bismee Taskin join us. Bismee, you spent quite a bit of time in Ladakh, and I was quite impressed that you just landed there. And most people need about a day or two to get acclimatized, but you were filing the same day. So tell us a couple of things about your experience there. What is it that you saw? Did it surprise you, what you saw? Or is it what you expected?
What surprised me the most is how Ladakhis are. They're extremely kind. They're very hospitable, even in those circumstances where, just violence had just ruptured this place that last saw violence, nearly 45 years ago, over 4 decades ago. They, even in that chaos, there was calm in their minds. When I visited the families of those 4 men who died in that violence and police fighting on 24th of September, even in the morning period, they were extremely hospitable. They entertained people, like, they even then in that situation, they were telling reporters, and including myself, about why they won 6th schedule, how they lost their young people. And one of them is also somebody who was a part of the Ladakh Scouts, Sewan Tharchin, 46-year-old retired Ladakh Scouts.
Who fought in Kargil.
He fought in Kargil, yes.
Yeah.
So, his father was also part of the Ladakh Scouts, and then he joined the Indian Army.
Because the army or soldiering is the most popular profession among Ladakhis.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So what is it that is angering them so much? Tell me 3 things.
First of all, they feel deceived that the BJP government promised them twice. one in 2020, then again by Anurag Thakur in 2024, that we will be granting you the 6th schedule. So they feel like you have deceived us. You gave us UT status. Now, to understand Ladakh's demand for autonomy, we have to go back to the pre-independence period. We're talking about a community of people who have been brutally repressed even by the Dogras. Nobody took their consent while transferring them from
When
here
you
to
say
there.
Dogras, you mean the rulers of Jammu and Kashmir.
Sin, correct. Because it has always been a part of Jammu and Kashmir, erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir. Then after independence also, they wanted the UT status. They wanted autonomy, right? But then the demand died because the movement for ST status started there. And this combines the people of Leh as well as the Shia Muslims of Kargil.
But they got ST status finally.
They got ST status in 1989. 1989 is also significant because while Muslims and Buddhists were clashing in Ladakh at that time, the same year they got the ST status. That is also the same year of Kashmir militancy. Ladakhis were insecure at that time that Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims of Ladakh are going to go against them. So the Ladakh Buddhist Association's call for autonomy actually dates at least 70 years ago. Even though it was in 1930s that the LBA was formed, it was revitalized in 1970s because they started again with their claims for UT status and autonomy. After 1989, when they got ST status, they lay low for a while, but their demand for UT continued. Like it was the mobilization for the same continued. So they rejoiced. Most Ladakhis rejoiced when it was bifurcated from Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh got UT status. It was only a couple of months later, or maybe like a year later, that they realized that they have been quote-unquote deceived because they have got UT status without legislature.
Without legislature, without any elected bodies.
Right.
And they've also lost the 4 MLAs they at least had in the combined Jammu and Kashmir Assembly.
And also protection of Article 370. The protection that they were getting under Article 370, that was also lost. So now they are fighting for Jal Jeevan and Jungle.
Yeah. Protection under Article 370 means that under Article 370, outside and 35A, outsiders could not come and buy land. Now, by law, they think that protection is not available to them. So what do they want now? What are their demands? Besides, say, statehood is one thing, 6th schedule is another. From where is this opposition to these big projects coming from?
Climate actually plays a very important part. Now, most Ladakhis and even now well-wishers and confidants of Sonam Wangchuk say that Ladakhis are not against development. They are pro-development, but what they are against is rampage. They do not want outsiders who don't understand the ecology of that place because it's very fragile, very vulnerable place, want to come and exploit their terrain. The other demand, the other anger also is the central government just gave them nearly 80% reservation for locals in jobs under the UT administration.
In local jobs.
Yes, under the UT administration, that's right. But what they want is also half, which is half of 7.5% ST reservation. They want reservation over reservation in the ST quota in central government jobs.
Okay, so in central government jobs, if 7.5% is reserved for tribals, these can be tribals from anywhere.
Right.
Half of that they want for Ladakhis.
Yes, because their again point is that we are a community who have been subjugated and not given any importance to. Even the Jammu and Kashmir government didn't give us any importance. So we have been subjugated over and over again. So we cannot compete with the rest of the STs in the country. They have also said that most SC seats in India are taken away by the Meena community, which is found in Rajasthan among other places. So they're like, because they are already a little bit more privileged than we are, we need to be put at 3-point-something percentage of 7.5 so that we can compete equally with them.
Yeah, it's like with scheduled castes, they say extremely backward castes. Then Mahadalits, right? Between backward castes, you have EBCs, Dalits, then you have Mahadalits. So it's a bit like that among tribals also, we are the least privileged or the most unprivileged of all the tribals. That's what they are saying. And unemployment is high for a small population. The latest periodic labor force survey tells us that unemployment is 6.1%, which is almost twice as much as the national average of 3.5%. And government said in a Lok Sabha answer, they said that Ladakh has seen the sharpest rise in unemployment among graduates, and it's gone up to 16%. So it's a little bit of a failure of the government, that government cannot cater to the job needs of such a small population.
Right. So another reason that when I spoke to people is they have a problem with the mainland's mentality towards tribals, that tribals don't understand things. You know, whatever you tell them, they are going to abide by it. Ladakhis have a serious issue with that because now they're running out of patience. In May, the talks started in January 2023. So the HPC was formed, the Leh Apex Body and the Kargil Democratic Alliance came together, talks continued. They are getting impatient that from May you have given us a date in October. So it's like you had mentioned earlier, there's this trust deficit. They're seeing that there's construction going on. Since 2019, 1,670 kilometers of roads have either been built or the development has taken place. So there's a sense of fear and anxiety that we are tribal, this is our land. What if these outsiders come, destroy our climate, take our land, and then throw us out of it?
Yeah, although it's not easy for outsiders to go and live there, but once public opinion like this builds up, you have to bring in reassurance.
Right.
So how did this violence get sparked? Because there's no history of violence in Ladakh.
Correct. On 24th, the violence broke out on 24th around like 10:30 and
24th September.
24th September, that's right. On 24th of September, violence broke out around 10:30 a.m. in the morning, and it continued. It was contained by like 5 p.m. Now, on the previous day, a lot of emotional appeals were made by youth apex body leaders, some Congress leaders, and a couple of other Leh apex body members as well, you know, asking the youth, the youngsters of Ladakh to come join in. These appeals were made because two elderly people in Ladakh who were part of the hunger strike, the original 35-day hunger strike, spearheaded by, again, the Leh apex body and Sonam Wangchuk, had fallen ill and they had to be rushed to the hospital. Now, these videos had started going viral, even in the remotest of areas, like in the Pang Plateau, even in Ule Tokyo, which is Sonam Wangchuk's village, and other areas like, you know, far from the Leh city, kilometers away, people came to know about these speeches. People realized that, the youngsters realized that we have to go there for our people because the government is taking advantage of us, because Ladakhis are very calm, quiet and very kind people. So they had gone for this protest. Now, around 5,000 people had assembled at that morning. Neither the security forces could have anticipated that, you know, that this huge crowd will come and start, and some people from this crowd will turn into a violent mob. The violence started near the Leh Autonomous Hill Development Council. A couple of youngsters between the age of 18 to 24 hurled kerosene bottles inside it. The damage was contained, but what happened was chaos broke out and the group segregated, and some others attacked the local BJP office there near this place called a Cheetah Chowk. So they attacked the CRPF personnel, the Ladakh police clashed with the protesters at that time, and they resorted to police firing at that time. The protesters attempted to burn down government building and, you know, tried to attack security personnel, and then they clashed, and then the police resorted to firing, in which 4 of them died, including this ex-serviceman from Ladakh Scouts.
Yeah. And that's what led to further
escalation, yes.
And how is the situation now? When you came back, how did it look now? How does it look now?
So after the funeral of the four who died in the protest, which also happened in media gag because reporters were not allowed to cover the funeral, like they tried to stop reporters. The curfew was relaxed. Internet was brought back for like a while because internet kept working though in hotels, Wi-Fi and all, only mobile internet was not working. The anger is simmered down for the time being because they're also in their mourning period, but they're definitely disappointed with whatever has happened on 24th September. According to them, these protesters are martyrs. They died fighting for 6th schedule in statehood. Over time, the Leh Apex body members, as we all know, have also said that the talks with the center will remain suspended till peace comes back to the region. So for now, they are sitting in their homes. They're trying to maintain the peace and the calm, but only time will tell what happens next.
Thanks, Bismee. That's wisdom from the ground, which is most important. And I hope you do go back to Ladakh again, but as a tourist to have a little bit of fun and to enjoy yourself
Yes.
and not to cover another round of trouble. I do hope no more troubles take place in Ladakh because Ladakh is too distant, too sparsely populated for people who are much too good to be angry, and in a region that's much too important for India to see trouble in.